If you really want to know who someone is, don't watch what they post online. Listen to the little things they say when they think no one's paying attention. Because a person's words, they're like fingerprints. They leave a mark. And sometimes, those marks reveal just how little respect they have for you, or for anyone at all. 1. Relax. It was just a joke. If there's one phrase that instantly tells you more about a person's character than almost anything else, it's this one. It's the coward's retreat. The cheap escape hatch for people who throw verbal punches and then pretend they were tossing confetti. You've heard it before, maybe from a friend, a co-worker, or even a family member. You're in the middle of a conversation, and out of nowhere they take a jab at you. Maybe they comment on your weight, your job, your relationship, your habits, something you're already sensitive about. You feel that little sting, that moment where your brain pauses, wondering, did they really just say that? So you respond. Maybe you defend yourself. Maybe you say, hey, that's not cool. Or maybe you just go quiet. And that's when it comes, the lazy grin, the mock surprise, and those 5 magic words. Relax, it was just a joke. Here's the thing, when someone says that, they're not telling you it was harmless. They're telling you they don't want to take responsibility. They've seen that their words hurt, and instead of owning it, they flip the script. Now suddenly, the problem isn't that they crossed the line, it's that you're too sensitive to take a joke. It's manipulation in a clown costume. Let's be real, humor is supposed to bring people closer, not push them down. A real joke is funny for everyone in the room, not just for the person saying it. But when someone hides behind humor to get away with being cruel, it's not comedy, it's cowardice. I've seen it happen in every social circle. At work, a colleague teases you in front of the team about something personal you never even told them in confidence. At a family dinner, an uncle makes a sarcastic comment about your life choices. At a party, a so-called friend imitates you in a mocking voice for laughs. And every single time when they're called out, they lean on that same flimsy defense. Relax, it was just a joke. And here's the secret. Most of the time, it wasn't even meant to be funny. It was meant to establish dominance. It was meant to remind you that they can say whatever they want and get away with it. They want the social points of being the funny one, without the moral cost of being the cruel one. This is why it's so telling about someone's character. Because people who respect you will apologize when their words hurt. Even if they did mean it as a joke, they'll say, "Oh, I didn't realize that was sensitive for you. My bad." That's what a respectful human being does. But people who double down and tell you to relax are basically saying, "My intent matters more than your experience." That's arrogance. That's entitlement. That's someone telling you without saying it directly that your feelings don't carry the same weight as their right to speak. So what do you do when you hear it? You pay attention. You don't just brush it off. Because if someone repeatedly hides behind just a joke, what they're actually doing is training you to accept their disrespect as humor. And before you know it, they've created a space where you're the punchline, and they're the hero of the story. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't grow out of that behavior unless they're forced to. And by forced, I don't mean you have to confront them with a TED talk on boundaries. Sometimes, the most powerful move is distance. You stop laughing, you stop engaging, you stop being in situations where they have an audience to perform for. You take away the stage. Because respect isn't proven in how someone treats you when things are easy. It's in how they respond when they've hurt you. If their instinct is to laugh it off and make it your problem, you've already learned everything you need to know about their character. And trust me, people who constantly use "it's just a joke" as a shield aren't comedians, they're bullies in disguise. 2. You're too sensitive. Ah, yes. The phrase that's basically the emotional equivalent of "your feelings are invalid, and I don't want to deal with them." It's not feedback, it's a shutdown. Here's how it usually plays out. You speak up about something that bothered you. Maybe it was a comment, a joke, a tone of voice, or even a passive-aggressive move. You're not yelling, you're not overreacting, you're just pointing it out. And instead of listening, they smirk, shrug, or roll their eyes and say, "You're too sensitive." What they've just done in that moment is flip the script. Now the problem isn't what they said or did. It's that you had the nerve to feel something about it. It's a lazy, manipulative tactic, and it tells you a lot about their character. Because people who respect you won't weaponize your emotions against you. They'll try to understand them. Let's break it down. When someone says you're too sensitive, they're really saying one of three things. I don't want to take responsibility. Owning up to hurtful words requires humility. It means admitting you were careless or cruel. But for some people, that's too much work. So they toss the blame onto you. I don't value your boundaries. They're letting you know they believe their right to speak however they want outweighs your right to be treated with basic respect. I've decided my reality is the only reality. If they wouldn't be hurt by it, then no one else should be. It's arrogance disguised as advice. I remember a friend in college who loved to make little digs about my appearance, my hair, my clothes, even my accent. The first few times, I laughed it off. But eventually I said, "Hey, I don't really like those jokes." And without missing a beat, she shot back, "Wow, you're so sensitive." It was like a light bulb moment for me. Not because I suddenly thought I was sensitive, but because I realized she wasn't interested in respecting me. She was interested in keeping her license to insult without consequences. And here's the bigger truth. Too sensitive is often code for you're reacting in a way I don't like. So I'm going to frame it as your flaw instead of my behavior. It's gaslighting, but wrapped in casual words, so it sounds harmless. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people are overly sensitive about everything, but there's a massive difference between having thin skin and setting healthy boundaries. And if someone can't tell the difference, it's probably because they benefit from blurring that line. The danger is, when you hear you're too sensitive enough times, you start questioning yourself. You second-guess your reactions. You think, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should just let things slide. And before you know it, you're tolerating more and more disrespect. All because someone convinced you your feelings were the problem. That's how you end up in toxic relationships, personal, professional, even family, where your emotions are treated like inconveniences. But here's the reality. Feeling things deeply isn't weakness. It's awareness. It means you notice when lines are crossed. It means you care about how people treat you. And anyone who tells you you're too sensitive for wanting respect, that's a person showing you they can't handle accountability. So the next time someone drops that line, don't defend your sensitivity. Because in my experience, people who weaponize that phrase aren't trying to help you toughen up. They're trying to make sure you stay quiet. 3. I guess you're lucky. At first glance, it sounds harmless, even flattering. But the truth is, I guess you're lucky is one of the most disrespectful phrases a person can throw at you. It's not really about luck. It's about erasing your effort. Here's how it works. You've worked hard for something. A promotion, a business win, a new home, a healthier body. You've sacrificed weekends, poured in late nights, and navigated setbacks that would have made most people quit. You've sweated for it. And when you share the result, instead of saying, "Wow, you really worked for that," they shrug and say, "I guess you're lucky." What they've just done is take every ounce of grit, discipline, and sacrifice you poured into that achievement and credit it to a coin toss. They've turned your story of perseverance into a lottery ticket. This phrase is often served with a smile, like it's a compliment. But under the surface, it's envy in casual clothing. It's someone avoiding the uncomfortable truth that maybe they could have done what you did, but they didn't. And instead of admitting that, they make it sound like you were just standing around and fortune fell into your lap. I remember when I landed my first decent-paying freelance job. It wasn't glamorous. I'd been grinding for months, sending out proposals, getting rejected, tweaking my work, improving my portfolio. I finally got a client who valued my time. I was proud. I told a friend, and she smirked. "Wow, must be nice. You're so lucky." Lucky? No. I was broke, stressed, and one rejection away from giving up. But I pushed through anyway. There was nothing lucky about waking up early every morning to work on something while everyone else was sleeping. Here's why "I guess you're lucky" reveals true character. It's a statement that says more about the person saying it than the one hearing it. People who respect you will acknowledge the grind behind your wins. People who envy you will erase the grind and replace it with luck because it protects their ego. It's easier to believe someone got lucky than to admit they worked harder, learned faster, or risked more. Because if it's luck, then they don't have to face the fact that they could be doing more themselves. Don't get me wrong, luck does play a role in life. Right place, right time, right person. That stuff matters. But here's the catch. Luck is useless without action. You can stand in the middle of an opportunity and still lose it if you haven't done the work to be ready. Luck might open a door, but it's your preparation that decides whether you can walk through it. The people who constantly say, "I guess you're lucky," often aren't really talking about you. They're projecting their own frustration. And if you listen closely, you'll notice they use that phrase for anyone who achieves something they haven't. That's why I don't take it as a compliment anymore. I take it as information. It tells me this person doesn't see or respect my effort. This person is more comfortable minimizing than celebrating. This person might not be rooting for me as much as they pretend to. So the next time someone tells you, "I guess you're lucky," just smile and think to yourself, if only you knew how much work it took to get lucky. Because here's the truth, luck isn't something that falls into your lap. Luck is what shows up after you've worked your butt off, so that when opportunity knocks, you're ready to open the door. And the people who understand that will never reduce your success to chance. They'll congratulate you for the grind that made it possible. 4. That's stupid. This one's blunt. No sugarcoating, no subtlety, just a flat-out dismissal. And while it may seem like harmless bluntness, "That's stupid" is one of the most disrespectful things someone can say to you. Why? Because it doesn't just criticize an idea, it attacks the person behind it. Think about it. When someone says, "I don't think that will work," or "Here's why I disagree," they're engaging with your thought. They're challenging the idea, not you. But "that's stupid" is different. It's a verbal grenade. It shuts down the conversation instantly because there's no space left for discussion, only embarrassment. The real kicker, it's usually said by people who either don't have the patience to understand your perspective, don't have the skill to explain their own, or just want to assert dominance without having to actually prove they're right. I'll never forget the first time I pitched a project idea at a group meeting. I'd spent days putting it together, research, planning, even some mock-ups. I was nervous but excited, and after I finished, one of the senior guys in the room leaned back, smirked, and said, "That's stupid." Just like that. No explanation, no constructive feedback. I remember feeling like someone had pulled the floor out from under me, not because my idea might have been flawed. I can handle criticism, but because in that moment, he didn't just shut down my proposal, he tried to shut me down. That's the thing about people who casually drop "that's stupid." They're not trying to help you improve. They're trying to put you in your place. It's a power move, disguised as honesty. And here's the dangerous part. If you hear it enough, you start holding back. You stop sharing your ideas because you start assuming they'll be judged, not on their merit, but on the willingness of someone else to respect them. That kills creativity. It kills collaboration. The irony? A lot of the greatest ideas in history were considered stupid at first. The light bulb, the aeroplane, the internet, every one of them was laughed at by someone who thought they knew better. But the difference is, visionaries didn't let dismissive voices stop them. They just stopped listening to those voices. Now, to be fair, sometimes ideas are bad, but there's a world of difference between saying, "I don't think that will work, here's why," and "that's stupid." One invites growth, the other shuts the door in your face. When someone says "that's stupid," without offering a better alternative, they're revealing something important about themselves. They value dominance over dialogue. They confuse rudeness with intelligence. They lack the emotional maturity to separate ideas from identity. And if that's how they treat you in conversation, you can bet they'll treat other people the same way. It's not just about one comment, it's about their approach to communication as a whole. So here's my rule. If someone dismisses me with "that's stupid," and no constructive follow-up, I mentally file that person under not worth debating with, because a respectful person will challenge your idea without trying to humiliate you. And the next time you hear it, instead of shrinking, look them right in the eye and ask, "Why do you think that?" It's amazing how quickly people backpedal when they realize they can't explain their disrespect. The truth is, calling something stupid is easy. Building something better is hard. And people who only know how to do the easy part will always reveal their true character sooner or later. 5. That's not my problem. Few phrases expose someone's true character faster than this one. It's cold, it's blunt, and it tells you exactly where you stand with that person on the outside. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a healthy version of not taking on other people's problems. You can't fix the entire world, and you shouldn't let someone use you as their permanent emotional or financial crutch. Boundaries are necessary, but that's not my problem. Isn't about boundaries, it's about indifference. It's about refusing to care, even when you could. Here's the thing, when someone says this, they're making a choice. They're choosing to shut the door on your situation. Not because they truly can't help, but because helping would inconvenience them. And instead of just saying, "I'm sorry, I can't help right now," they strip it down to the most dismissive language possible. I'll never forget when a coworker of mine had a family emergency and needed someone to cover her shift. She went to a guy on our team, someone she'd helped out countless times before, and explained the situation. He barely looked up from his phone before saying, "That's not my problem." No compassion, no concern, just a flat-out refusal. It wasn't that he couldn't help, he just didn't care enough to. And that's the key. This phrase is almost never about ability. It's about willingness. When people default to, "That's not my problem," what they're really saying is, "I see your struggle, but it's not worth my time. I value my convenience over your crisis. Your problems don't matter to me unless they affect me directly." And let's be honest, sometimes you can tell they even enjoy saying it. There's a certain satisfaction in showing you they have zero obligation toward you. That's the kind of person who sees life as a scoreboard, and they're not giving out points unless they get something in return. Here's the controversial part. I actually think how someone says, "That's not my problem," matters even more than the fact they can't help. Because there's a respectful way to set limits. "I'm sorry, I really can't right now, but I hope it works out. I wish I could, but I'm swamped. Maybe try asking other person." Those responses still acknowledge your humanity. "That's not my problem" strips it away. And here's why this phrase is so telling. Because in life, there will come a day when they need something from you. And when that day comes, the people who've been quick to say, "That's not my problem," often expect you to drop everything for them. They see compassion as optional until it benefits them. Of course, you can't expect everyone to carry your burdens, but you can expect basic empathy. A person who won't lift a finger for you when they could easily help. That's someone showing you that your relationship is transactional at best. So here's my rule. I don't beg for help, and I don't hold grudges, but I do take notes. If someone makes a habit of saying, "That's not my problem," without even a trace of empathy, I file them under not someone I'd rely on in a storm. Because respect isn't proven by how people act when they have to help you. It's revealed when they could help you, and they choose not to. 6. No offense, but. Let's be honest. Whenever someone starts a sentence with "no offense, but," you already know offense is coming. In fact, the moment those 3 words leave their mouth, you instinctively brace yourself, because whatever follows is about to be disrespectful, condescending, or just plain rude. And here's the truth. No offense doesn't erase the offense. It's like saying, "I'm about to punch you in the face, but don't be mad." The damage is still going to hurt. You just gave me a polite heads up first. People use "no offense, but" as a verbal hall pass to say something they know is crossing a line. It's a way to dump their judgment onto you while pretending they're being reasonable. And most of the time, they think it makes them sound honest or straightforward. But in reality, it makes them sound passive-aggressive. I remember being in a group setting once when someone looked at my shoes and said, "No offense, but those are really interesting." That "interesting" was not a compliment. It was code for, "I don't like them," and I'm trying to disguise my insult as curiosity. Here's the thing. If you have to preface what you're about to say with "no offense," you already know it's going to be offensive, which means you have 2 choices. Rephrase it respectfully, or keep it to yourself. The people who abuse this phrase tend to think that honesty has to be brutal. But there's a big difference between telling the truth and using truth as an excuse to be unkind. Saying "no offense" doesn't magically turn disrespect into constructive feedback. It just makes it obvious. You're aware you're about to cross the line, and you're doing it anyway. And here's why this phrase is revealing. It's not just about what they're saying, it's about why they're saying it. Some people use it to assert superiority. Let me remind you that I see flaws you don't. Others use it to mask jealousy. I'm going to insult you, but I'll make it sound casual so you don't call me out. And some use it to avoid accountability. If you get upset, I'll just say you're too sensitive, because, hey, I warned you. Think about it. When was the last time someone said no offense, but and followed it with something genuinely helpful? It's almost never, no offense, but you're smarter than you give yourself credit for. No, it's usually followed by a jab at your appearance, your choices, your intelligence, or something deeply personal. It's also a great way for people to test your boundaries. They want to see if you'll let the comment slide, laugh it off, or push back. And if you let it slide once, guess what? You've just given them permission to keep doing it. So here's my approach. If someone says, no offense, but I pause and say, okay, but if you know it's offensive, why say it that way? It instantly forces them to think about their words and makes it clear you're not the kind of person who accepts a cheap disclaimer as an excuse for disrespect. At the end of the day, no offense, but is the conversational equivalent of saying, I'm not racist, but, or I'm not judging. But, you already know what's coming next, will be the exact thing they're pretending not to do. The people who truly care about you don't have to disguise their criticism behind a flimsy warning. They'll tell you the truth, but they'll tell it in a way that builds you up, not tears you down. Because no offense isn't kindness, it's just cowardice wrapped in fake politeness. 7. You always or you never. If you've ever been in an argument, whether with a partner, friend, co-worker, or even a family member, you've probably heard one of these phrases: you always forget to call me back. You never listen to me. You always make things about you. You never help out around here. On the surface, these sound like just statements of frustration. But in reality, you always and you never are linguistic landmines. They're not just describing one incident. They're rewriting your entire track record. Here's why they're so destructive. They turn a single mistake into a permanent label. Instead of "this thing you did upset me," it becomes "this is who you are," all the time, without exception. That's not just criticism. It's character assassination. Let's be real. Nobody always or never does something. People are inconsistent. We have good days, bad days, moments of brilliance, and moments of forgetfulness. But the moment someone throws a blanket statement like this at you, it erases every time you did show up, every time you did get it right. I remember once helping a friend move. I was there all day carrying boxes, sweating through my shirt, ordering pizza for everyone. A few weeks later, I couldn't make it to another event they invited me to. Their response? You never support me. Never. Like the 10 hours I spent hauling furniture never happened. This type of language is toxic for two reasons. It's unfair. It exaggerates the situation into something absolute and impossible to defend against. It puts the other person on the defensive, instead of focusing on the actual issue. Now you're both fighting over whether that statement is even true. And here's the sneaky part. You always and you never don't just happen in arguments. They creep into everyday conversations in ways that can chip away at relationships over time. A partner says, "You never listen to me," instead of, "I feel like you're distracted right now." A coworker says, "You always drop the ball," instead of, "That deadline was missed. How can we avoid it next time?" These phrases reveal something about the speaker. They're more focused on winning the moment than solving the problem. Because if the goal were truly to resolve the issue, they'd stick to specifics. Generalizations are about power. They frame the other person as always wrong, while the speaker positions themselves as always right. It's also worth noting that you always and you never tend to come from a place of emotional flooding. When someone's hurt or angry, Their brain goes into overdrive looking for proof of the injustice, pulling up every similar instance in the past. By the time they speak, it's not just about what happened today, it's about the last 5 years. But here's the problem. When you attack someone's character, not their actions, you make change nearly impossible. After all, how do you fix never or always? Those aren't habits, they're absolutes, and absolutes leave no room for growth. A much healthier approach is to swap generalizations for specifics. Instead of, "You never help around here," try, "I felt overwhelmed today and could have used your help." Instead of, "You always ignore me," try, "When you were on your phone earlier, I felt ignored." Specifics invite conversation. Absolutes invite conflict. So the next time someone says "you always" or "you never" to you, remember this. They're not speaking the literal truth. They're speaking their frustration. That doesn't mean you have to accept it as fact. And if you catch yourself about to use those words, stop. Ask yourself, am I describing what actually happened? Or am I trying to make a point by exaggerating? Because once you drop "always" or "never" into the conversation, you've shifted from addressing the problem to attacking the person. And that's when respect starts to die. At the end of the day, words aren't just sounds, they're little windows into who we really are. Someone can smile in your face, shake your hand, even call you a friend. But the phrases they drop in unguarded moments, that's where their real character leaks out. Because here's the truth. People don't accidentally belittle you, dismiss your feelings, or undermine your accomplishments over and over again. Those patterns aren't slips of the tongue. They're habits. And habits tell you everything you need to know about how they value you. The good news, once you start noticing these disrespectful phrases, you can stop making excuses for them. You can call them out, set boundaries, or, if you have to, walk away entirely. Life's too short to decode backhanded comments and half-hearted disclaimers. Surround yourself with people who speak with honesty, empathy, and respect, people who can tell you the truth without tearing you down in the process. Because when it comes to relationships, friendships, family, work, love, the most revealing thing isn't what people say when they're trying to impress you. It's what they say when they think you're not keeping score.